Come in! Did you hear me?
Now, did I mention you have to go into the sewers? No? Thought I'd wait until you were at a safe distance. You need to collect 4 red cogs to unlock the entrance.
Did I mention this video was going to take place in the sewers? No? Thought I might as well wait until you actually started watching. So welcome back to Malice. We are at the Siren Tree again, and this is the last time. This time we're here to collect 4 red cogs scattered around the Siren Tree, and they've pretty much run out of places to hide things at this point, so the red cogs are fairly out in the open. These bunkers fire lasers at us, but climbing atop them is an easy way to avoid getting shot. Of course, climbing at them from the side and not the front, because the front is where the lasers come out. We're not really going to come across anything we haven't seen before in this section. Even the large crows with big guns we've already seen. We're going to use our bullet shield magic to take care of them because they do love to spam their shots. Now you should be careful because sometimes there is a glitch where your bullet shield magic actually won't protect you from them if you get close enough. And that can be a little frustrating, but you still shouldn't die. And although I suppose this is nothing we haven't seen before, we are now seeing it in larger quantities. This is the largest amount of crows we've seen with guns. Presumably the game expects you to know how to deal with them by this point, which is fair considering how simple the combat system is. I am making excessive use of our bullet shield magic to avoid getting hit at all. But speaking from prior experience, you could totally just tank all these bullets and come out fine. I will say that I'm thankful for the increased damage of the clockwork hammer because the game could get tedious if we had to fight crows the same way throughout the entire game. Something I feel is worth mentioning about the design in this section of the world in particular is that every time we take out one of the big crows, they drop a heart pot. I believe this is the only section of any world in the game where that's just a consistent logic applied to an enemy type. Sure, in some other levels, big enemies will drop a heart pot, but this is the only one where it's a guaranteed thing, a guaranteed rule. The last 2 red cogs we're looking for are on the Siren Tree itself, and then we'll have cleared out this section of the world, and we won't have to come back to the Siren Tree anymore.
Behold the ancient rat-infested sewers of pipe and drums. Watch out for rats and roaches, and do try not to step in anything.
So I believe I said previously, though this is not a collectathon, there was an area where the collecting will get a little bit out of hand, and this was the area I was referring to. Although this game is incredibly linear, this section of the world does its best to pretend that it's a collectathon. In addition to the standard 5 heart pots in this level, there are 5 golden cogs and 4 red cogs to collect, which can be a little bit overwhelming, and even though the area is small, it can be easy to miss them. The fact that it's a sewer level combined with all of this collecting probably turned a lot of people off, and the first time I played it frustrated me immensely. It's not so bad after having played other collectathons since then. And I understand with the layout of this area, you need to have collectibles or the player would just run straight through it. Alright, I understand why the collectibles are here, but I still think they're a bit excessive. You know, 5 golden cogs by itself, that's probably enough, just space them out better. There's no reason to have 4 red cogs on top of that. I do wish I could say something about the enemy design, since we are seeing enemies that we haven't before, but they're basically just the crows again. There's a big rat that acts like the big crows with guns, and there are smaller rats that act like the smaller crows without guns. And the roaches are harmless, really. The only important distinction between the crows and the rats is that the rats take more damage. Now back to the collecting. I said that I understood the layout of this area made it necessary to incorporate collectibles. But said layout and the placement of the collectibles is mediocre to average, as with most things in this game. I understand it may seem weird to judge only this section of the game as a collectathon, but for this section of the game it decided to turn into a collectathon, so what am I meant to do? Before we were only collecting one type of item that was necessary to progress, when we were even tasked with doing such. Thankfully the design present in this area doesn't stick around. This is the only time I can think of where the collectibles get overwhelming, difficult to find, or obtrusive to the rest of the game. We'll surely be collecting more things before the game is over, but this is the last time they'll be so excessive. I will say, although this level is not particularly colorful, I really do like the aesthetic. I think it's cheeky how the walls are modeled after bathroom tile and there's a huge bathroom tub in the center. It's actually really cute. It's a way to do a sewer level I hadn't seen before, at least visually. Like, yeah, this entire place just looks like a really disgusting bathroom. I love the little ocean waves built into the walls. I love the cracked floor tile. I don't want to know what's in the bathtub, but it completes the look. Unfortunately, the fun visual design of this section may be overlooked, or worse, associated with all the collecting, and as such associated with frustration. Which is a little unfair, and I think this aesthetic should appear in another game sometime. A game with an atmosphere like this one, but with the gameplay to match. I'm honestly surprised that Conker didn't beat this game to it. I know comparing this game to Conker may seem odd, but doesn't this seem like something Conker would come up with first? And perhaps my favorite part of this is that although this is clearly just a giant bathroom with green sludge flowing out of it, the Metal Guardian treats it as though it's some sort of sacred, mystical place. The intentional dissonance of those two concepts is something I really enjoy from fairy tale stories in general, and I wish we would see more of that. Generally when we do, it's in media that isn't appreciated. Media that's considered to have subpar writing in it. You know, the surrealism that comes with combining fairy tales with pop culture or crude humor. Even though I don't find the humor funny or appealing, it's part of the atmosphere. It completes the package, if that makes sense. It's not the same without it.
Ah, health magic. This will restore your hearts to the maximum you can hold. Pull and hold the right trigger and press the A button twice. Now, you'll need to find 5 coins to open the gate. Just pop them in the coin meter when you've got them.
So now, not only do we have 5 more collectibles to find, but we still have 1 red cog left. Again, this section in particular is a little bit excessive. This is better than the rare occasions where there's an open area in a video game, but they forgot to put something to do in it, so the player just runs straight through. That's far more depressing than this is, but I feel like there's a middle ground, and they kinda ran over it. I think with this area in particular, though, you might get the idea of why I enjoyed this game so much personally, why I feel like it's the kind of thing that was made for me. Not the gameplay, but the general atmosphere. I have a real affinity for this sort of thing. And it puts me in a weird position, you know, where I have to be that guy that says, I love Monkey Bone, and also try not to sound like a hipster. But I really do love Monkey Bone. That film is my idea of high art. People are always like, you can't cram a bunch of surrealistic visuals into a fantasy storyline with a bunch of crude humor and expect it all to turn out okay. And I couldn't disagree more. I want all of that all the time. Pump it directly into my bloodstream. Wait, where are we in the game again? Right, collecting stuff. We're still collecting stuff. We're nearly there, though. The last 2 collectibles are just lying on the ground, and notably, or at least somewhat notably, one of the collectibles leads to an ambush. It's a humorously ineffective ambush. When we get close to the final coin, 2 minor rats appear. And I'm trying to envision a way in which this was meant to be challenging, but I can't honestly think of something. It's a minuscule flaw in the game, sure, but it's a flaw they felt the need to draw explicit attention to. They could have easily spawned the rats without showing a cutscene, but for some reason I guess they felt a pair of some of the weakest enemies in the game was really important. So now we have all 5 coins, but we're still missing a red cog and still missing a heart pod, but there's no reason to freak out because this game's just kind of an asshole. I mean, they had to know that anyone with even a remote understanding of how collectibles works would have searched the area rigorously for that last cog, right? They would have done that before they put the coins into the slot. But instead, the 5 coins lead to the final red cog. What a dick move. So now we have all the collectibles necessary to progress, but what about the last heart pot? Well, that's just another dick move. The last heart pot is behind the door that we need the red cogs for. Don't do this to me, Malice. Don't play me like that. I've been nice to you, Malice. I've been downright chummy, even. I've pointed out your flaws in a really helpful and friendly fashion. Why do you gotta do this to me? So we're not in a bathroom anymore, unfortunately. We are now in Gloop River, and that's actually the in-universe term for this green stuff. At first I just thought it was a cutesy name, but no, they call it Gloop more than once. It's actually what this is called. And I feel like the game deserves praise for creating a consistent in-universe name for sludge. You know, it's just generic-looking green sludge, and I'm sure nobody else even noticed they consistently call it Gloop, but I noticed, so good job, Argonaut Games. We're definitely meant to travel through the center of this pipe instead of, you know, walking above it, in case that's not incredibly clear. But I thought we should go above it anyway, because we have to travel through the inside on the way down. Might as well get a nice change of scenery. And generally in 3D platformers, I walk on top of things whenever I'm allowed to do that. I tend to go as high as I possibly can. Usually there's an invisible barrier that prevents me, or usually, you know, there's not too much space up there. But when there's an option to go higher, I do. I do think the River of Gloop looks fairly impressive, especially for the time this game came out. Like, yeah, it looks disgusting, but it looks disgusting in a way that's really cool.
This next bit is going to be a tad tricky. You see those barrels? Jump on them, ride them down the Gloop River, and find the second switch. Oh, and keep an eye out for hidden items while you're about it.
He says this next bit is going to be tricky, but presumably you've seen moving platforms in a video game before, right? If you have, then this shouldn't be a problem in the slightest. Like, this challenge is so rudimentary, I feel weird that he even drew attention to it. But at least it takes us closer to the awesome-looking Gloop. He also tells us to look out for collectibles while we're riding the barrels, but the only collectibles are at the end of the path. Maybe the design originally was different? Because this isn't challenging, and I can't imagine what he meant by looking out for collectibles when all of them are just in one place at the end of the pathway.
Excellent. More barrels. Now you can jump and double jump your way up the Gloop River to the exit pipe.
You know, actually, while we're talking about Gloop and underrated surrealistic films, everybody should go watch Gloop. In fact, every time I say Gloop or someone in this video game says Gloop, I want you to think about that film so that way you don't forget about it. It contains a toilet that smokes cigars, and I'm not sure what other incentive you would need to watch a film. Anyway, the Metal Guardian said we could jump up the Gloop River to the exit, and we can, but first we're gonna run along these pipes so we can grab the remaining heart pots. Generally in games I avoid optional collectibles unless they provide a significant boost to character stats or unlock an extra that must be seen. But in this case it isn't either of those. I just memorized the game so thoroughly that I can't think of a reason not to grab these. I suppose Maxima was an exception where I collected all the Sorceress's Kisses just to show off how good I am at the game. Or, you know, if this were a straight up collectathon, I would probably just run around and grab whatever I thought looked interesting. Platforming up the Gloop River like this is slightly more difficult than platforming down it. Just slightly, though. Sometimes if you use the double jump, you risk overshooting the barrel. But you can pull back during your double jump to ensure this isn't the case. Anyway, it's not difficult. After we make it all the way up the Gloop River, the only thing that stands in our way is a single rat enemy who also happens to contain the last heart pot. Again, that's kind of a dick move.
Yo, baby, get on your knees and give praise to the Juju Man. I'm the hottest, meanest piece of greatness you ever did see, and the coolest, too.
Dude, you live in a sewer.
Now that's just insulting. This is a stink hole. The sewer's out there. I'm gonna have to kill you for that. I'm a very sensitive guy.
Hey, I got a big hammer and a short attention span. Let's just fight the rodents.
Watch out for the rats, my dear. They're the main threat. Juju Man is nothing without them. I just don't understand why I can't see the key more clearly. Normally, I can detect it.
Juju Man's gang of crazed rats or a big-mouth adolescent? I know who my money's on.
Wait, so to be clear, your money's on us, right? Because those rats are huge pushovers. I hope you're seriously not actually betting money or something on them. Anyway, Juju Man will actually fire bolts of magic at us occasionally. Homing bolts of magic, mind you. And if they hit us, they will turn our head enormous, and we'll start rolling down the path into our oblivion. Until we hit a spike and then just turn back to normal. It really only serves as a distraction. It's not going to hurt us any or hinder us too greatly. I was trying very hard to activate the bullet shield magic there. I assume you could see that in the user interface, but for some reason it wasn't triggering. It's probably just a one-off glitch. Before we go and get the other keys, we want to come down even further on the pathway because there is a single crystal heart pot that's hidden way down here at the bottom of the level, the very, very bottom. It's one of the more cruel heart pots because I don't think anybody would normally think to look down here. So we've covered that Juju Man's magic isn't really a threat because while it does damage us a little bit... Oh, here you go, you get to see it in action. When we hit the spike, as I said, it damages us a little bit, but since we have 10 health, this is no problem. I guess if you weren't collecting any heart pots, it might be a little more formidable, but then you can always just turn on the bullet shield magic and you'll be home free. And in addition to that, the enemies drop health refills, so... Even if you do lose, though, you just restart at the beginning of this section. I want to point out I really like the atmosphere of this place, too. The background is really creepy looking and it fits with the music. The surprisingly beautiful music that I wouldn't really expect to be in a game like this. I do believe in the early stages of Malice's development the big head was actually a power-up instead of a detriment. I think the idea was to use it to navigate downhill obstacle courses, but the only thing that remains of it in this game is that magic from Juju Man. That's the only reference to it. Considering how much it changed, it's surprising they incorporated it at all.
Man, those were my best dang rats. You done it now, girl. You got me mad. Prepare to experience the true power of the Juju Man!
Running away? That's his power?
Malice, help me! I'm under attack!
No sweat, I'm on it. Beam me back, Rusty.
No, there's something you need first. Some magic. It's in the Juju Man's treasure cave. You'll need to use the 3 skull keys. Do try and hurry along, though. Come on, Chivy, I'm about to be killed.
I would love to rush over to the secret treasure cave and grab whatever you're talking about, but you understand we gotta get the heart pots first. It's nothing personal, it's just something that has to be done. I'm sure you'll be fine.
You ain't the boss, but if you got 3 keys, I ain't got no choice. I hope you're happy, that's all. I'm gonna get my wages docked if you steal anything.
See, I didn't laugh at that, and I don't think anybody ever would laugh at that, but without that humor, the atmosphere of the game is incomplete. I hope you understand what I mean.
I'll make this quick. It's damage shield magic. Protects you against all attacks. Pull and hold the right trigger and press the Y button twice. Now get back here and save my backside. Ah, now I see it. This creature holds the key we seek. Juju Man must hold the later one. No wonder I was confused.
You and me both, Metal Buddy.
The mecha dog won't like the giant defense pillars. Try hitting the floor switches at just the right moment.
If you're so clever, you come and do it.
Welcome to the boss fight against Mecha Dog, a rather average boss fight like all the others before it, with nothing else going for it aside from atmosphere. The attack it'll use most during the early fight is this one, where it charges straight at us, and aside from having really nice animation, there's nothing too remarkable about it. We just move to the left or right to avoid it. We don't even really have to try very hard. Its second attack are these fairly straightforward projectiles, which we again evade by moving to the left or right. And its final attack is this slower moving projectile which homes in on us, and this one is a lot harder to avoid. It's still possible, but we might as well activate our bullet shield magic just to be safe. After it's done attacking us, it moves to the center of the arena, and at that point we need to step on one of these panels. It activates the pillars around it, which will close in and damage it. So even though there's nothing really remarkable about this boss's design, if you showed me this boss fight with no other context, I would still absolutely want to buy the game because of the atmosphere present here. I mean, this shit looks beautiful and the music only helps. But that's pretty much it as far as the boss fight is concerned. You've already seen everything he has up his sleeve.
My dear, what would I do without you?
You'd be a mangled pile of cogs, Rusty. You wouldn't do anything. What's next?
Malice, you must be strong. Your next quest will take you into the heart of all that is evil. Worse, you are to enter the Fire Fortress, the very home of the Crow army itself. There is a key there, and something else. A monstrous entity with many limbs. You are in grave danger, my dear. Seek out the bird resistance. They can help you, if they are not already prisoners to the crows.
Bird resistance? They're eagles, right? They're not just really weedy like sparrows or something. Tell you what, don't answer that. Just let me live in hope for a while. Excuse me.